Hi, it's Shane from plantbasedrunner.com, and today we're going to talk about what to expect at your first time in a studio. So, the studio experience is amazing. It's one of my favorite things. But first time in there, it's such a incredible experience, and you think you have an idea how it's going to go, but usually you're not that close. um, a studio, I just love the whole vibe of it. You're there creating music. It's nothing like it. Especially as a session player, you go in, sometimes never hearing the song until you're there, and then you hear a demo or you get a number chart or something like that, and you kind of play through it briefly just to kind of get the vibe of the song and talk about a few things. And specifically as a bass player, you'll basically come up with a bass part as you're listening, and then maybe you might talk to the drummer to find what kind of pattern he's going to be playing, so you can lock in with him. And sometimes you're discussing with a guitar player, keyboard player, doubling parts or playing different notes over different chords and stuff like that. But anyways, the whole experience, I mean, the big thing to remember your first time in the studio and your thousandth time in the studio is time is money. And that meaning really holds true for studio time. um, Unless it's your own project, it's somebody else paying for that studio time, and it's not cheap. And there's little room for fooling around. I mean, you got to focus, and the best studio session players have that focus, and they don't fool around getting a sound or anything like that. They have all their stuff together before they even step into the studio. Now, as a new player going into the studio, it's going to be a little bit of a different experience. Usually, there's a studio call time, and you have to determine whether that means that's when you load in your stuff, or if that's when the downbeat for a recording is going to be, or you're going to start the whole process. So make sure you figure that out, because you don't want to get there and everybody else is sitting there with their paper ready to chart stuff down and you're hauling in gear, because again, you're taking up time that is really valuable. So if you're a band, of course you need to be prepared before you go in, rehearse the song, all that stuff. And but if you're an actual side person session player, you go in, and as a bass player, usually you don't take a lot of your own gear, because you'll just go in a simple chain, basically use your bass into tube DI. And if you got one, that's great. If not, most studios have their own tube DI that they handpick to use. Um, Again, the artist usually has a demo, and the first thing you do, for me anyways, is grab a cup of coffee and get a clipboard, and usually they'll have a chart for you. Now, it could be a chord chart, a number chart, or notation, but usually it's most sessions I'm in now, it's the Nashville number system. And if you're not familiar with the Nashville number system, there's lots of videos online, and it's incredibly fast to chart a song. And instead of using chords, it uses the number correlation to the notes in a chord. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the octave would be the eighth. So the nice thing about that is you can chart a song, and the singer goes, I think it's a little high for me. Can we drop it a half step? Well, you don't have to rechart it. It's all still the same number system on the different chords. So a lot of times we'll sit there and work stuff out, and as we're listening, I'll be, chatting with the drummer a bit, saying, "Hey, what do you think about playing here?" or whatever. Or somebody will come up with an idea of a riff that maybe they want you to copy and stuff. So that's where it's all done. After that, you head to your station. Beforehand, but usually before that, you're getting your sound too. So as a bass player, again, I keep it simple. Just go straight in and let the engineer get the sound. And if you're a guitar player, it's the same process. You might be dealing with effects pedals and amps and trying to get a good sound out of that, or you might just go completely using plugins, which a lot of people do now. So, and then it'll be a run through, getting sounds again, but also getting the tune in your head and figuring out some rough spots and just seeing what happens. And then usually you only get a few passes, and because again, time is money, you're expected to produce something that's great with only a couple times through. So there's a lot of pressure, but boy, it's fun creating that way, because the pressure is the fun part. I mean, some days it just doesn't flow, and it's really frustrating. And as long as you leave there with something for them, it's not bad. But there's a few times where it just, for some reason, it just doesn't click, and hopefully those don't happen too often, but they do. And don't get frustrated, because once you start getting frustrated in a studio, then that's when things start to fall apart. But you're creating music, and it's the best job in the world, uh, as far as I'm concerned. If you make a mistake, nobody gets hurt or anything. But just remember that time is money, and it's great to visit and chat and stuff, but there's a time for that, and that's usually afterwards. Or if somebody's like a lot of times, especially as a bass player, I'll do my tracks and be done, and usually the drummer too, and maybe rhythm guitar or something like that, or keys, and then they'll overdub solos or electric guitar stuff like that, or layer it up. So that's the time that you can sit in the lounge and have a chat and find out what's going on, but not during, not when they're ready to press record. You don't want to be chatting away and wasting a bunch of time. So a big thing these days, I see anyways, is the distractions, bringing distractions into the studio. And by that I mean your phone. I see people that have their phone on their music stand. They do a pass, grab it, and so they're not really focusing 100% on the tune. Try not to do that. I mean, if you're expecting something important, I guess it's different, but the whole thing about the studio thing is to leave that outside world out there and just focus on what you're doing that day or that session. And then afterwards, you got lots of time to look at your phone and stuff. But don't be one of those people that everybody's waiting on, and you're sitting there scrolling through your phone. It's just not a good thing, and chances are you probably won't get asked back. Also, if you're a side person, you have to know different charting systems. I rarely see notation. If I do, it's just for a certain little part. So I'll be handed a chord chart, and I'll play through that, or I'll scratch up a chord chart. But these days, the Nashville number system is kind of the number one thing I see in the studios. And that, again, if you look that up, and it's worthwhile. And there's books on it, there's tutorials on it. It's not hard to learn, and once you have it down, and once you can read number charts, it's way better, and you'll understand it once you read it, or once you learn how to do it. That it's way faster. It's faster to chart in real time, and it's adaptable for key changes and stuff like that. So it is a good skill to have. So anyways, that'll be your experience. Is it's exciting. I've done lots of studio stuff, and I still get excited when I walk through that door. I still get excited the first run through. I still get excited going to the booth and listening to what I've done. It's just so cool to get together with other people and create. So if you can get that kind of work, it's so nice, and you sleep in your own bed every night. Unless, of course, you got to fly to a studio, and which happens too. But it's a wonderful experience, and if you do a good job, word gets out, and you'll get callbacks for more stuff. So it's a great avenue for creating music, and it's I still love live playing more, but boy, getting into a studio and creating music is a great, it's a great thing to do. So, but you got to work at it, and you got to be good, and you can't make mistakes, and you got to be the right personality. All that stuff adds up to being a top studio session guy, so, or gal. So it all comes together. But you know what? It's not this mystical, magical place. It's pretty much every studio is the same as far as the process, and just focus when you're in there, and have fun, because there's no better thing than creating music, and especially if you get to hear it on the radio later. That's kind of a nice little perk. So anyways, there you go. That's kind of in a nutshell what to expect on your first studio experience. But again, just keep telling yourself time is money, time is money, time is money, and don't be the person that stands out as far as the bad stuff. Be a person that just makes the engineer and the artist's life a lot easier, and you'll keep going back and getting better and better and more studio sessions. So it's a fun time. Okay, there you go. Thanks for watching my video. We'll see you on the next one. Hey, if you like this video or any of the others I've done, hit that subscribe button. And if you're looking for bass lessons, head on over to my website, plantbassrunner.com. Go to my contact page, send me a note. We'll work something out. Thanks for watching.